Hey everyone, welcome to this video. My name is Lex from Dropship Circle. And in this video, I'm going to be showing you what I've learned from making over £8.25 million for both me and my students using the high ticket dropshipping method. So if you're interested in starting this type of business, you really want to get out a notepad, stay till the end. I'm going to try and give you a huge amount of value and show you where you can go wrong, what I've learned, and exactly the steps you need to take to start, grow, scale, and even exit this type of business to replace your 9-to-5 income, earn an extra income on the side, or even go in full time and double, triple what you're earning. And obviously the best thing about this is on this channel, you're gonna see the shortcuts that I have learned over the last 5 years of doing this to save you a huge amount of time. So what we'll do is we will jump right in and I'll just talk for a little bit about my story. So you can see here in the first few years from 2018, I took the traditional route, right? I was studying here. You can see I was in my university dorm room and I thought that the traditional way to have success was to follow the way the system wants us to be, right? My parents didn't have much. My father grew up on a council estate in the UK, and my mum came to the UK when she was young, and they didn't really have much. And they worked extremely hard to put me through an education, to send me off to university. And you can see me here. It's quite funny, really skinny, working hard, burning the midnight oil, working all hours to be the best at what I was going to do. And I really felt, and you may feel the same way, that you may just be stuck in the matrix, stuck in a system that doesn't really care about you. And ultimately, you feel a lot of pressure on yourself to do well. Maybe you've gone through the education system. I have a master's degree, and I thought that was the answer, right? And so you see, I went into the traditional workplace, and this room was me and my colleagues. It was the 9-to-5. In fact, it wasn't even the 9-to-5, right? Maybe you're at work right now and it says 9-to-5. I was working from 9 till 10 p.m., 5, 6, 7 days a week. And the problem with that was, which I think you will agree with, ultimately you're earning money for someone else, right? And at the end of the day, your paycheck is fixed. It's very comfortable. I mean, that room there didn't even have any windows. So it was a bit of a nightmare, but I was earning that money for someone else. And at the end of each month, I had my stable paycheck and I realized, there must be something else out there. I personally couldn't do that for the next 30, 40 years, right? And so I love this meme here by Mark Twain. And it's a quote which says, "I was educated once and it took me years to get over it." So I was educated once down here and go through that system. And it took me years to get over it, years to unlearn all of that conditioning that was put on me at that time. And I think if you're watching this, you may feel the same way, right? And it's kind of like you're stuck in the system, stuck in the matrix. You probably heard that term. But I knew that there were people online. I mean, you're on YouTube. You can look around. There are people telling you can make all of this money in a really short space of time. And I made a lot of mistakes, right? I thought, damn, how can I make this kind of internet money? How does it work? Is it real? What business model shall I choose? And like I said, that was about 5 years ago. Since then, I have personally invested over £100,000 now in mentors, in programs, in all different skill sets, right? Not just e-commerce, in self-development. And what it allowed me to do, and this is not to brag, by the way, this is just to show you an example, is this allowed me a few things, right? So the first one is time freedom. So time freedom is one of my highest values, right? So time freedom, maybe it's your highest value too. And if it is your highest value, you're sitting there potentially working for someone else and most of your life will be behind a desk or behind a computer or whatever you're doing, right? And that's not really time freedom. All I wanted to do was achieve £2,500, £3,000 a month of net profit so I could just give up the desk job, the day job, and do whatever I wanted. And because my skill set before was engineering, architecture, I was really down a rabbit hole thinking that was the way, maybe I could set up a business in that space. But actually there was no leverage, right? And leverage is the key word here because I'll give you an example. So again, this is not to brag, but this is me. And I was relaxing here on holiday with my girlfriend. And that day, just a little story for you. I remember sort of lying on that hammock, just relaxing. I, was swimming, came back to my bag that was on the side, picked up my phone, had a look, and I saw that there were sales for that day, right? And this is actually a screenshot from that day. It was £14,000 of revenue generated. And that was from just 3 orders, 3 high ticket orders. Now, bear in mind, after all the costs of goods sold, after the ads, after the shipping, this was about a 30% profit margin. That is huge. So this is over 30% margins, right? So one of the key lessons is whatever you're selling, and again, I can be biased here, but I would rather sell less items at a higher profit and then just deal with 3 orders, 3 happy customers, and they're also super high quality products with next day delivery. But I'll talk about that in a moment. So that really is over £3,000 of net profit. It's a huge amount of profit. And that actually paid for the entire holiday in just one go, in just one day, right? And so you're probably thinking, well, why listen to me, right? You're on my YouTube channel here. This is the first video that I've done after a huge amount of requests. And so why should you listen to me, right? So here's some information, some screenshots. This is one of my stores that I have, over £1.8 million in 1 year at a 30% profit margin. You can see the sessions, over 1 million sessions. But the interesting thing is the average order value. That's the key, the AOV. What's the average someone's spending is over £1,000. And again, at that 30% margin. And you can see here, one of my ad accounts for a store, it's £154,000 that has been reinvested because I didn't have that money to start. It was, from the sales. And you can see here, the number of sales, 916. And my return on that was £1.3 million. That's nearly a 10x return on investment. So the good thing about this model is that you can scale. That's the key thing. You can scale a lot faster than if you're looking at cheap products to sell, low ticket, trending products, Amazon, or even starting your own brand or white labeling products, or even starting a D2C business, right? You have to build up. If you're trying to start one of those e-commerce businesses, either you need to have a lot of money to start with or a lot of clout, a lot of influence, right? And I didn't have either of those. So I was also invited, and I'll just stay on this briefly, then we'll go into the actual details here, to Google. So Google, we use them, and they had a summit. And you can see here the Accelerated Growth Summit that was in London. If you're spending over $250,000 per year, you get invited to this, and it's a select group. There are only 30 people in that room. And so this really is the top 0.3% of the industry. And so, yeah, when I say, I kind of know what I'm doing with this business and the ads, I hope this kind of builds a little bit of trust with you. But it's not just for me, right? And so I had the pleasure of meeting and working with Ty, and I guess many of you will know Ty if you're watching this video. So this is Ty Lopez, and of course you can do your research on him with the famous In My Garage video with the Lamborghini. But since then, he's gone on to do hundreds of millions of pounds in e-commerce. And so him and his team, they reached out and they actually invited me to do coaching. So, here my expertise will help his students. And what that led to is me producing training and mentorship for his students. And you can see some of the feedback here, right? So it's informational, generous knowledge. Thanks for sharing so much knowledge, right? And so I think the key thing with any program is, who are you learning from? Are you learning from people who are just trying to take you in and then sell you something that doesn't exist? Or are you actually getting knowledge from people who have the value and I guess who can prove that they can teach it to other people? That's the key thing here, is this system I've mastered and I can, obviously teach it to people like yourself, right? And so since then, we do have a program here and we've grown it. We've got huge number of 5-star reviews on Trustpilot. You can check them out at a later date. But you can see here, wins from my student David, 7.2K in just one order. Before you clicked on this video, did you think it was possible to have one sale and make £7,000 in revenue, over £2,000 of net profit in just one order, right? Kind of seems crazy. I've got another student here who just invested £700 into Google Ads and they returned over £20,000. That's £6,000 in net profit in just a couple of weeks, right? And you can see here, one of my students who has achieved the dream, sitting on a beach in Cyprus on their laptop with that time freedom, getting this business up and running and making sales. So what we'll do is I'll give you a bit of context here. So if you look at a business model, and you're probably here thinking, I want to make money online, or maybe you've tried a few of these models. Maybe it's Forex, crypto, affiliate marketing. You hear that a lot. Maybe you've even tried or dabbled in e-commerce before. E-commerce is not going anywhere. Let me tell you that. So if we look at the graph here, we can see that it is growing year on year. This is common sense, right? After the pandemic that we had, people have got into the buying habit or behavior of wanting to buy things online, okay? And so at the time of recording in 2024, over $6 trillion will be transacted through e-commerce websites online, and that's going up year on year, 7 trillion in 2025. So imagine you only need a really, really small slice of that pie to replace your 9 to 5 income, right? If it's 2,000, 3,000, 5,000 pounds a month, you only need a really small segment, okay? And that's the key thing. Just choose a business model that is growing and is going in the right direction. And you can basically do this, which is you can ride the momentum, okay? You can ride that momentum. And that's really the key thing, is getting leverage and going into looking at the macro and thinking, well, okay, the macro is going up, so I want to be part of that. And that's why e-commerce is a great business model to start. So what I'll do for you now is I'll go through the 5 key things you need to get started in high ticket e-commerce. So the first thing is to sell products that we consider as high ticket, right? And these products are over £500 in RRP, okay? And so this means that you're basically positioning yourself as a business that sells high quality products, okay? And so you're probably thinking, how do I find these type of products? And what even is a niche, right? And so the thing is, Amazon has done a huge amount of work for us, okay? So what they've done is they've created categories. So the categories they've created are segmenting the market into different niches. So if you go on their website, you can have a look. So we'll have one like home and living, right? So I'll write this down here. So home and living is a category, okay? And within that, they'll break that down into various rooms within a house. So we've got like the kitchen, we've got the living room, we've got bedroom, and so forth. And within the kitchen, they're going to have another set of segments, right? They're going to have like white goods. So this is like household goods, right? Like washing machines, dishwashers, things like that. And another niche in there is going to be things like wine coolers, right? So wine coolers is a type of niche where we would be able to gain a competitive advantage. And I just really want to stress this, if you're taking notes, that a competitive advantage is where we're becoming a specialist, yeah? So we're becoming a niche specialist. And what that means is we will know everything about the products. We will only sell these wine coolers, these wine racks. And trust me, you can have a look. So if you go onto Google Shopping, you can have a look. And if you type in wine cooler, you can set the filters to above £500. And you're going to see products in there that go all the way from 500, probably in this niche, up to around £8,000. Okay, so this is the ideal niche. Now, the key thing here is you're probably thinking, well, why doesn't Amazon just do this? If you look at the average order value on Amazon, it's nowhere near over £1,000, right? In fact, I personally wouldn't go to Amazon to buy a wine cooler. I don't know if you would as well. I would try and find this specialist store within a niche that I know can actually fulfill and deliver and has the world's best brands. Okay, so that's the first thing. Find a niche with products that are over £500. The second is building a strong brand, right? So what we want to do is we use Shopify for this. So Shopify is the world's best platform for creating your own e-commerce store. It has the front end, it has the back end. And those of you familiar may have created stores on there before. They make it super easy. But the key thing here is we need a brand that can build one thing, which is trust. So that trust effectively is between you and the customer. They're coming there because you're the middle person in this case, and you're going to be able to show them, direct them through the product pages, through the customer support, that you are one thing, which is an authorized retailer. So what this model requires is that you become an authorized retailer. That is really the key here. And as an authorized retailer, you're not going to have to struggle by selling brands that you're white labeling, you're bringing in from China, you're trying to create a name for these products. This name already exists. These brands already have something called demand. They already have search demand. Yeah. So search demand is the key. And the thing about this is because you have a trustworthy brand that you've built, which has a memorable name, you've got your own domain name, and you're an authorized retailer, then that search demand, people are already there. They're looking online for these products. Okay. And so I explain this a little bit more clearly, which is if someone over here is looking for a product, their reticular activating system, their RAS, they've got a new kitchen and they're thinking, well, I want to buy a new wine cooler, right? They have a few options. So the first option is that they're just going to go into a physical store, right? So they're going to go into a store. They're going to speak with the people in there. They're going to have a touch and feel of the wine coolers that are in that store. And they're going to get an idea of what they want. Then they may go on YouTube. They're going to start researching. They're going to go on blogs, on forums, and things like that. In fact, they may even land on your website and go on one of your blogs talking about these products. But ultimately, they're going to know they want a certain brand. So they're going to know that they want a brand or a product SKU specifically. Okay. And because they can then see online that you're on Google Shopping, and Google Shopping, if I just show you here, you'll be familiar with how this works. Is at the top of Google Shopping, you're going to see listings, right? These are images, okay? And when someone is searching for a search term, the way this model works is through your Shopify store, through your brand, and through your feed, your products are showing up to these buyers. And they have intent. They're not just randomly looking. They're lower down the buying funnel. And because we're an authorized retailer, we have legitimate accounts, then these people are likely to trust you through association. It's through association. Okay. So that's the second part on a strong brand. The third key here is having a local supply chain. So I see this mistake so much with beginners. They look on Alibaba, AliExpress, or wherever in Asia or other countries, and they're trying to bring these products in, right, to wherever they're selling. So let's say it's in the UK. Now, the big issue with that is if you're shipping things from China, they're going to take usually a long time, especially if they're high-priced items, right? So we're looking at, 14 to 28 days. And I don't know about you, but if I was a customer, in this day and age, we have Amazon Prime, I would not want to wait for 28 days or 14 days even, or even 7 days to get my product, right? I think you would agree with that. So instead of doing that, what we do is we use local suppliers. So the way this works is between China and between where you are, let's say if you're in the UK or the USA, there is going to be a distributor, okay? So a distributor is a business that has storage. They have a warehouse, they have fulfillment, and they effectively act as the middle business between the manufacturer. So the manufacturer could be in China, they could be in Europe, they could be in another country. And this distributor is the business that is involved in organizing all the shipping, dealing with the red tape, dealing with the containers. They order them in bulk, right? And so the key thing here is when a distributor is in your country or a supplier or even a manufacturer in some niches, you are able to work with them. If you know what to say and how to say it, you can get them on board and they can supply your store. So that means your customers will benefit from having next day delivery. Okay? So this is the key. So if you're taking notes here, you can just write down next day delivery and have local distributors and local suppliers. So the next thing here is having a scalable ads system, right? And what's commonly taught, which I see online, which does work for some types of e-commerce, is solely going to cold traffic through platforms like Meta. So that is Instagram and that is Facebook. So let's say I'm on my feed, I'm on my social media, and I'm just browsing through Instagram, right? I'm on there, I'm looking at my friends, I'm viewing stories, I'm doing things, I'm just wasting time, basically. The last thing I would want to see randomly is a wine cooler. If I have no interest, I'm not going to buy that product, right? So you'd be wasting the money that you're spending on that platform. I think you would agree with that. So instead, what we do is we go to traffic that has intent. So that intent is captured through Google as I explained earlier, right? And I'll show you a diagram in a moment that goes through that in detail. But effectively, that traffic through Google has intent. People are going to buy. And because we have higher priced items at higher margins, we can reinvest faster and scale those ads. And with any system, as long as you can put in £1 and get out £2 at the end, then you have a machine that is printing money. You can just scale what's on the front end, and ultimately you'll end up with a business that is profitable. And the other thing here is, because we're using the dropshipping model, you're never going to have to buy any of that stock up front. You are doing the following. You are selling before you are buying. So that is the key thing. You are selling before you are buying. Okay? So really, we can summarize that by there being the old way. And the old way is where you run these social media ads to your Shopify store and you end up wondering, what the heck is going on? You're generating traffic, but that traffic is just browsing and then clicking off your store. And maybe if you've had a Shopify store before or you've looked at running one, you may have suffered with that problem, which is you're just losing money. And to be honest, you don't want to be in business if the model is broken. And I call that the old way of doing this. However, the new way, and I know this can look a little bit complicated, but I promise you it isn't, is by having a system that works, that turns £1 into £2 with minimal risk, okay? So we're minimizing the risk. So the way this works is, and I'll go from here, is we have traffic, as I was talking about earlier. That traffic is coming in through Google Ads, shopping, search, performance max. There's a variety of campaigns that we use, and it has intent, right? So let's say wine coolers. People know that they're wanting to buy a wine cooler of some sort, okay? And you're going to be having that on your brand, on your website, as an authorized retailer on your Shopify store. Now, some of these people, they're just going to buy because they like the brand that you sell, right? If you're selling a really, really reputable brand that's from a manufacturer that's been around 20, 30, 40 years, they already have trust. They know the exact product they want, right? But if they don't, then what we're doing is we are owning the data. So this is another key part of having a high ticket business, and obviously using Shopify rather than using Amazon, Etsy, eBay, where they own your customer. It's not your customer, right? So let's get that straight. The user data that we get is the email and the SMS, and that is yours to keep. Okay, so when they come to you, they may opt in, they may opt into your newsletter, they may opt into a discount. And what we can do with this system is we can remarket to them. So it's actually free to send an email. Have you thought about that? It's free, right? You can send as many as you like, as often as you like, within reason. And so we're building up our email list, and this becomes a huge asset for your business. And the other thing is we can use Facebook and Instagram. I'm not saying they're not worth using, but we use it solely for remarketing, which is where we push that traffic back to the store. And then people are going to be buying even more. And we get word of mouth, we get referrals, we have the systems that are scaling your business. And up here, you can see the product feed. We use an app called Simprocess. And what that does is it formats your data of your products, and that goes into Merchant Center, and that goes back into the ads. Now, the cool thing about this business is you don't really have to show your face. It doesn't have to be a personal brand. If you're someone who basically doesn't want to put their face out on the internet like I'm doing right now, and you want to stay, behind the screen, you just want to operate the business, then this really is the perfect model for you. And so here's 3 key lessons that I've learned from doing this process over the last 5 years. And I think you're going to find value in this. So the first one is do what scares you first. Okay. It's really easy in business to think, well, I'm just going to go and browse YouTube. I'm just going to click off this video. I'm going to have a look at another 5 Shopify videos or e-commerce videos that you're probably going to get recommended. But ultimately, you are staying in what you know is the comfort zone. Yeah. So this comfort zone is the danger zone. The comfort zone is an area where you will just be researching for months and months and months. And you don't really want to do that, right? Ultimately, if you want to change your life, you want to get results, you want to get traction, you have to step out of your comfort zone. And I think the key thing where this gets real is when you start talking to suppliers, right? knowing what to say and how to say it. And the key thing here is, as long as you can build trust by communicating value, then ultimately your business is going to grow. And the key thing here is, with suppliers, they're just human beings. They have businesses that they want to grow too. And one of the things that we say is we are a marketing platform. So I'll just write this for you. So we're a marketing platform. And that is the key word. We don't have to mention dropshipping, although some of them will dropship. We don't really have to say retailer. It's all about the power of your words. And if you prove to them that you're giving them value and you're growing the market and you're making sales for their brand, you're reaching new customers, then there's no reason why they won't work with you. But actually, it's quite scary, right? It's scary having to speak with suppliers, and that's really when the business gets real, right? So you have to know what to say. Then the next thing is accepting that you know quite little, right? So you may think right now that you know a lot about business, about high-ticket e-commerce. There's probably loads of videos which you can watch about it, but there's nuance in this. There's nuance in the process, right? And there's something that you can get, which is decision fatigue. So decision fatigue is probably the worst thing that you can get, because what happens is you will just be looking around. You'll be looking at different business models, maybe Amazon, Etsy, Forex, affiliates one day and then something another day. Maybe you just dabble. Maybe you just have a look around and you've never actually committed to a process. That's the key thing, is once you realize you don't know much, you're going to have to find a system that works. And on this channel, and in our program and for my students, I try and give as much value as possible to make that decision making easier so you can just follow one process itself. The next thing here is to never go alone, right? So what I mean by that is this is a process, right? It's a journey. And for me, I mean, it's taken me 5 years to get to this point where we've done millions of pounds. The way I like to plot it is this sort of chart here. So if this is me here, and let's say this person here is you over here, I'll just write that. If that is you, then there is a journey, right? There's kind of this gap, and that gap takes time, right? So this axis here is time, right? And this axis here is stress and failure. So we've got stress and failure, and we've got time, right? And there's a big gap to get from where you are now to actually having a business that's replacing your income and so forth. And the thing here is, if we look at that journey, if you're trying to do it yourself, then you may be faced with a lot of issues, right? So there's going to be an issue here. There's going to be lots of things, lots of blind spots. And there's a saying, which is, you don't know what you don't know, right? You may have heard that before. You don't know what you don't know. And so your journey is going to potentially be fraught with all of these issues, right? And so if you are able to find a program, a mentor, or even great YouTube videos, you can actually jump that. You can go above. You can overcome that. You can skip all of those years and that time and all of that frustration, that stress, and those mistakes, and you can really start to get results fairly quickly. So the final thing here, and thank you for staying with me on this, is persistence is key, right? So if we look at the way this journey usually goes, most people think that it's going to just be like that. You're just going to get results, you're going to make money, and everything will be smooth, right? But ultimately, people end up giving up. And this may be you. Maybe you've tried stuff before and you start getting results like this, and you get to that point and then everything just crashes. You give up, things get slow, you have questions that you really don't know how to overcome. Things get a little bit overwhelming, right? But ultimately, the journey that you'll go on is a little bit like this. So it will go up, down, up, down, up, down. And eventually, the trend of that will be having the life, the freedom, the business that you want. And so persistence is one of those key values that you have to have if you want to start a business. It's one of the things that will carry you through. So the next thing here is, what have I learned from doing this and how can you benefit from that? So there are failures and mistakes along the way. And I've had a number of stores now over the years. Some have been exceptional and some have failed miserably, right? That's just the way business is. You'll learn a lot through the process. And what I wouldn't want you to do is go through the pain of having a business and then it just not working, right? Or not knowing what to do. And so there's a key value here, which is, if you're not accepting the truth. So what do I mean by that? The truth at the moment is, I don't know where you are specifically on your journey, but it may be the case that you have that gap. You have that knowledge gap. And you're a little bit scared. You're a little bit fearful of trusting people, on the internet, or even building the business itself. You're thinking, well, is it too saturated? Does it work? But I hope from what I've shown you here that the truth of the matter is that this business model is growing, it's scaling. There is a massive opportunity with high ticket e-commerce. I mean, how many people are actually doing this business properly or professionally? Let me tell you, there are not many. And there are so many suppliers who want to work with you to actually scale this business. But you have to understand the truth that you may not have the answers. You may kind of have gaps in your knowledge. And as I showed you earlier, that journey can be quite tricky if you want to go through it yourself. It's fairly stressful, right? And so my big mistake was really not investing in myself early on, just thinking, well, I can get everything for free on YouTube, which you can to some extent. But the truth of the matter is you may need a mentor. You may need a mentor, right? Whether that's me, we have a program here. We have a full process. But the truth that I realized is you need guidance. You need mentors who've already been through that journey, whether it's me or someone else. And then the next thing, the big issue is that I see is with a lot of people is buying stock up front, right? So whether this is you want to start your own business, whether it's like clothing, whether it's D2C, whether it's white labeling. So white labeling is another. All of these are quite tricky, right? Because you may have to invest a lot of your money to actually get the business up and running. And people don't know you. They're sort of wondering, who is this new business? There's a huge amount of saturation and there's a lot of risk with that. And the risk here is that you are potentially sitting on stock. You're sitting on product that isn't moving. And maybe you've experienced that before. It's the worst feeling ever. I used to do that. And it's just not nice. It's not pleasant. You're like, why am I not selling any products? But the key thing with this is with stock, with this model, you will never, never, never have to purchase stock up front because I promise you, there are warehouses full of these high ticket products that are 1,000, 2,000, 5,000, even 10,000 pounds plus that your suppliers are sitting on, they're collecting dust, and they are literally waiting for you to sell them. The final thing is being perpetually distracted. Okay. And I say perpetually because this is a massive issue. It's probably a video for another time, which is, currently you're like on the internet, you're here, you're watching this on YouTube and you're just browsing around. And if you got this far, that tells me that you have the traits of being a really successful entrepreneur because you are not being perpetually distracted, right? We have all of the apps now that are trying to take your attention. We have TikTok, we've got YouTube, we've got IG. People are scrolling through and maybe you get inspired for around 10 seconds and then nothing happens, right? That's it. There's no momentum. There's no positive momentum. There's nothing structured that you can follow. And I think the key thing here, the lesson that I've learned with that is if you're going to do something, make sure there's two things. One is that it's proven. Yeah. And I hope by showing you this process that it is proven. And number two is being committed. So committed is just you staying with the process, you following the blueprint, you taking the actions. And the third thing to add in here is being disciplined and trusting the process. So really, I was always perpetually distracted and I realized nothing is quick. Nothing is going to make you super rich in just a couple of weeks. I usually say that this process takes around 6 to 8 weeks to get your business up and running with around 5 to 10 hours per week, right? So you'd need to find that time to dedicate. But actually, with a process that we have here, we've skipped all of the years of my trial and error trying to actually get this process together. So how can you achieve the same? And I've put a big question mark here, which is really, it's up to you. So this whole thing is up to you. It's up to you whether you want to listen to me. You don't have to. And you can click off this video and watch someone else, be my guest, right? But the point is how are you able to get to a position that I'm in or even better than me, right? And that is you have to be able to pay attention and listen. And I think the key thing with any type of business is there is a process, you have to trust that process and invest. And whether that's investing your time as you are now, and I genuinely thank you for that, or your money, you will need to have either one of those to be able to achieve the same. And so if you're loving this video, if you're enjoying what I've shared throughout this, again, I hope that you've got a huge amount of value. I'd really appreciate, I'm giving this away for free, is a like, a comment. Let me know where you're at in your journey, whether you've tried businesses before and how that's gone. And also a subscribe would really help as well. So the final thing is what others don't tell you. I will just end on this, that there are no shortcuts. So really remember that there is a process. It does take weeks. There is no quick fix. There's no quick solution that's just going to make you the 3,000, the 10,000, the 100,000 of profit per month. There is a journey. And if you are interested in learning more about that journey, you can see in the captions below this video, there'll be a link to a full training that I have where you can go through that and see this whole process in a lot more detail. So I really hope that you've enjoyed this video, and I've tried to share here as much value as possible with you. So the next things, I'll be uploading regularly to this channel. There'll be a lot of information about this space, about this business, tips, techniques, and tricks, and ways that you can get started. So yeah, thank you for watching this video. And again, hit that like, comment, subscribe, and I will see you on the next video.